Welcome to the Minding My Creative Business podcast, the #1 podcast for creative entrepreneurs to learn strategy, structure, and self-development. I'm your host, Ron Ironically Jr.
And I am your host, ShySpeaks, and this is going to be good because this episode, if we gave it a title, would be full-time versus part-time. But that's not really what we're talking about.
Right.
I mean, it's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But we want you to have a different way of thinking about it, right? So can I lean right into it?
Go on,
So I'm going to lean right into it. So first of all, there is this myth, right? There's this myth that says, in order to be an entrepreneur, you're not really an entrepreneur if you're not, and then they have all these different things, right? And one of them is, you're not really an entrepreneur if you're not full-time. That's not true. You can actually be giving part of your time to a business endeavor. It generates enough revenue, and there's a whole business e-commerce that's happening, and it's a real legit business.
Right.
So at that point in time, you're a part-time entrepreneur. And I know, I see it. I see the judgment. I see some people like, nah, that ain't true. You can't be, she's just trying to say that. No, but the truth of the matter is, when you are at higher levels of entrepreneurship in business, the goal is not to be full-time. The goal is to be part-time. Right? So there are books, there are whole studies, there are whole conferences about how to give less of your time to the business. Parents say, we know you Americans live to work. You know what I mean? We only work to live, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so yeah, I just want to dispel that myth when we talk about time, full-time and part-time. We're going to talk about it, but we talking about it in a whole different way.
Definitely. No, I mean, that whole concept of working is like getting more out of less.
Yes.
Right? Is once again, we're not taught that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the reason why we're not taught that, though, a lot of times is because we live in like a work society. Like they train us to be employees. So even when we transition from being an employee into now entrepreneurship, we take that same mentality where it's like, okay, I got to grind. Because it's almost like exchanging time for dollars, opposed to exchanging value for dollars. So where now I can give you value, but that value doesn't necessarily equate the same amount of time that I would have spent before.
Right. So it's so true. So I said there's a book. Now the book there I was talking about is the 4-Hour Work Week.
Mm-hmm.
Higher level. Now this is a book that's circulated around business circles, right? So the higher level of business and entrepreneurship is like, you want to have a 4-hour work week, literally. Yeah. Like, now everybody can't implement that. So most people try a 4-hour work day. At that point in entrepreneurship, their goal is to get as much done within a 4-hour period so that they don't work a full 8 hours anymore.
Right.
Now, for all you workhorses out there, we do understand that sometimes it takes the grind.
Yes.
You go from your 40-hour job into this, maybe you're working 50 hours, you may be working 60 hours in your business endeavor because you're trying to get everything off the ground. You're working it, you're running it, you're wearing multiple hats. But eventually, you should not be wearing all the hats. You should outsource those hats to others. And you put this on, get you some employees and contractors.
Right.
And then you're able to pull yourself out. You know what I mean? So I just feel like I hate when people see other people who are not full-time, like, hey, you still got a job. You're not a real entrepreneur.
Right.
And they see them as less of an entrepreneur because they only have a part-time to give to it. When in reality, there are people who only work 4 hours a week. I was listening to the other day, a guy, he was saying, I make multiple millions of dollars a year. He said, I work 7 hours a week.
Wow.
So if we want to talk about full-time, part-time, then I only work 7 hours a week. No, he ain't serious. No, he's very serious about what he's doing, but he's learned how to give more value in less time.
Yeah.
So.
And one thing you said is that eventually piece, right? Where you have to understand that there are seasons, right? So in the beginning, the season may be, like you said, we heard the quote where it's like, I left my 40 hours to work, 100 and whatever hours, you know what I'm saying? Or 90 hours, whatever the case may be. And that may be a case and that may be a season, but that's not the goal, right? That's not what we're working towards and working for. It's like, no, okay, initially in the beginning, I might be doing this grinding. You know what I'm saying? But even I hate the word grinding, right? Because even that, when you understand the word grind, it means to like grind and wither away. So it's like if you're grinding, you're withering away, and you're not going to be able to sustain that. Nobody can sustain it over time. So the goal is to, okay, let me come in here for a seasoning grind, knowing that I'm working towards this 4-hour work week. You know what I'm saying? So
and I know there are people who are watching this and they're like, oh, I clicked on this episode because I'm trying to go from full-time to, I'm trying to go from part-time to full-time. Or maybe you clicked on it because you're trying to go from full-time as an entrepreneur and starting to work part-time and scale down. So we have something for a little bit of everybody today. But we just had to dispel the myth because people feel, and it's not just, sometimes the people who feel it is not because somebody looking down on you because you're part-time. Sometimes as a part-time entrepreneur yourself, you feel like, well, I mean, I ain't really doing it because I'm not spending a lot of time on it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and listen, and so let's even lean into that. We're going to talk about our experiences, right? Because we have two unique situations, right?
Yeah.
Where we're both entrepreneurs, right? But one of us still has a 9-to-5, right? And does their business part-time on the side. And then the other one of us does entrepreneurship full-time, where that's all we do. So I am the part-time.
I thought we was going to poll the audience and have them. Hey, drop a comment and let us know.
Right, we should,
who you think is full-time, part-time.
But no, I'm a part-time. I do entrepreneurship part-time. Myself a full-time. I'm a program director for a nonprofit. But I do my entrepreneurship part-time.
Yeah. And I think that there are quite a few people who are in that situation. For example, program director at a nonprofit. That's a passionate thing that you may not even want to walk away from because you love making that one-on-one or that small group impact. But that doesn't mean that I don't have other business ideas that I'm able to run, and they're generating revenue as well for myself or maybe for other people, And so there are people who are teachers and coaches, but because they want to do that. They love teaching. But that doesn't mean that they don't have this other endeavor that they are running. And I want to dispel that myth, because there are those of you who are passionate about something and it is not like maybe as high wage earning as your entrepreneurship endeavor can make you. And you're like, well, it's because I'm not. No, it's just where you are at the time. And if you really switch your mindset about time, right? In this episode, that's what our goal is. You switch your mindset about time, perhaps you can be like this guy who says he works 7 hours a week and he makes multiple $1 million a year. If you only have to work 7 hours a week for the business, you got time to be a nonprofit program director. You have time to be a coach and a teacher if that's what you want to do, a social worker. Because at that point, I'm not doing this thing for money. I'm doing this thing for purpose.
No, and that's really the whole point, is learning how to buy back your time, right? Where it's like, okay, I can have this business that can generate revenue. And anytime you're doing a business, you're trying to generate revenue. So I'm generating revenue, and it may be this thing on the side, but I'm doing this other thing because, like I said, it's a passion project. And sometimes, in some cases, not in my case, but in some cases, this over here can fund your passion project. Like we've talked about, I've talked to my clients and I let them know, like, listen, have this thing here can fund this passion thing that you want to do. Don't let this go because you feeling as though you obligated or that you're not able to do it. It's like, nope, have this here. This can fund this. You can continue to do this. Or there's other reasons as to why you may hold on to it. Like, in entrepreneur space, I mean, you can get benefits and whatnot, but having a W-2 job, sometimes that come with benefits. So it's easier to, it's easy for me to work this job. I got these benefits and still do this or pursue this. And in some cases, right, it's I'm working this job because I'm generating revenue, but not to the degree that I want it to be. So I'm working this here until I can develop it enough or grow and get the revenue to replace this here.
Right. So when we talk about full-time versus part-time entrepreneurship, we're really not talking about time. We're talking about where this person is sustaining their income.
Right.
Are you sustaining your income, the partial income, or are we talking about full income coming from the business? That's really what we're asking. It don't sound right to say full-time versus you want to say partial income or you full income, you know?
Right. Definitely.
But basically,
that's what it is.
But that's what it is.
Right.
Are you full income or are you partial income? What we mean is the portion of your salary, is it partially coming from business and the full aspect of it is coming from your full-time job? So maybe about 75% of your overall income is coming from your 40-hour work week at this other job that you have. And then about 25% of your income is coming from your business. So let's, for simple math, that's $100,000. $75,000 a year is your salary, and you're making $25,000 a year in this business. And this business is mostly profit because you don't have an overhead for it. You don't have a building. You're generating income. That's a lot of money like that you're making annually, especially if you don't have a high overhead. Now, the goal is to go, how can I get that to 75? This where I'm giving part-time effort, but I make $75,000 there. And I make $75,000 in my full-time. So now I make $150,000.
Right.
Now I'm 50-50.
Right.
I'm 50-50 on income, but I'm technically still giving part-time effort to this, right? And then eventually I want to get to the point where I'm $75,000 at this thing that I was only giving part-time effort to. So now that's the win because I make $75,000 in way less time. So now I can replace this job because it takes full time. You know what I mean? And so that's what you're talking about. So when we talk about that, you went from 75, 25, 50 to 50. So now I'm 100% sustaining my livelihood and my income from the business.
And I want to throw something out there, right? And this may be controversial or they may not understand the concept just yet. But I want to encourage you all or let you guys know a little secret. It is easier to make that 75,000 or 75%. And what we were doing for the sake of the conversation, we said 75,000. It's easier to make that 75,000 in that less time than it is in that full-time job.
And the reason why he wanted to say that because we're talking about lower numbers because they're you know, the goal is I want to have a salary of $250,000, right? That's my salary. You know, I want to have a salary of $500,000. So we just, but for the sake of simple math, right? So we don't want to turn you off if you like, baby, that's talking about $100,000. I've been made that. No. So yeah, that's good. And sometimes it's easier. And the reason why why is it easy?
It's easier because the effort and energy and time that you put into that. Once again, once you understand the whole value for dollars opposed to time, right? It's easier once you understand that concept and then you start to lean into that concept. Like we had a guest the other day and they have a $6,000 program, right? So $6,000 program, in order for them to get that, right? They said or to get to 75,000, you need about, what is that? About 12 clients.
Right. No. So yeah. So if you have, let's just say, $5,000 times 12. Which way you going?
Oh, man, I was using their example of 6, but we'll do 5. Once again,
5. Simple math for the
Simple
people.
math.
Okay.
So if I have a $5,000, program or
product
offer, product or service, whatever the case may be, right? In order for me to get that 75,000, I need what's
15.
the math on that? I need 15. I need to sell 15 of that product or 15 of that service, right? So the time and energy that it takes for me to find those 15 people, I can guarantee you it's probably going to be less than that 40 hours a week that you're putting in, right? And then even depending on what your product or service is, it's going to take less time for me to implement that, right? Because this thing, finding 15 people in a year's time, you know what I'm saying? Finding 15 people in a year's time that's willing to give me $5,000 for my product or service, I can guarantee you that takes less time, effort, energy, resources than it would for you to go and work this 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. And in some cases, it's 50 hours. You know what I'm saying? Depending on your job, it could be, you know what I'm saying? Most people work anywhere from 40 to 50 hours a week.
I would go this way with it. I would say if you want to go from, let's say you're making $75,000 in your full-time job, and you're like, man, I'm trying to get to 6 figures, right? I'm trying to get to $100,000. The skill level difference that it usually takes for somebody in the company world to say, I'm willing to pay this person 6 figures. Your skill level, you gotta have a whole different skill level to get to that.
Definitely.
You know, that's a whole different degree or certification or level of experience or something like that constitute you getting to going from 75, let's say, oh, you're trying to get 150, right? We know these are things that doctors and lawyers and engineers,
Right.
these are very skilled, very knowledgeable experts. So it takes time to get to that versus, and again, that's why I said we're talking about time, but we're not really talking about time.
Exactly.
Because in that regard, it takes you time to get to, in the full-time job world, it takes you time to get to 150. But in this endeavor where you're selling a product or service for 5,000, you know, it doesn't, it just takes the amount of sales that gets you to 150,000.
Right.
150 divided by 5, that's 30. I just got to sell 30 of these. That's just the difference.
Definitely. I mean, even thinking about Nipsey Hussle, right, where he had his mixtape he was selling for $100, right? It's like, yes, he took a chance to do that, but he was able to
set his price,
and he, once again, in doing that, he sold less, right? The same energy that some people putting in to sell 10,000 units, 100,000, whatever units, he now only got to sell 1,000 units.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I sell 1,000 units at $100, that's $100,000.
That's it.
So you telling me within, once again, a year's time, all I got to do is find 100 people. Or 1,000 people.
Right. So now it's two different things. It's two people who are gonna make $100,000. So if you're gonna go and get a marketing director job, certain amount of time it's gonna take you to be able to go tell a company that I'm worth $100,000.
Right.
And then he, however, says, I have a $100 CD and I'm gonna go sell it to 1,000 people.
Right.
It's the same amount of money.
Same amount of money.
But the thing is, with entrepreneurship, he's able to pull a different lever. He was able to pull, you know what, I'm not going to sell a CD for 10, I'm going to sell it for 100.
Exactly.
And so in this entrepreneurial thing, you have the ability to control the speed at which you reach the next level. That's what we're talking about here.
Control the speed.
Yeah.
Be able to control the, and listen, and that's it. I like that.
You can control the speed. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with time.
Right.
It doesn't have to do with time. Like, so we said we were going to be candid on this episode. He says he's the one that's the part-time entrepreneur. I'm the one that's the full-time. But before I was full-time, I was full-time, right? Fully sustained income is what we're talking about. Right. Before I was fully sustained from my business, I was partially sustained.
Right.
I had the degrees. I did all the things to be able to constitute a higher wage salary, right? So I had that. But I still had this other passion and this service and all these other things that I could offer. And then at one point, I started realizing I'm making just as much in this thing that I'm giving part-time to that I give full-time to. Right. And it was actually providing me whole different opportunities. Like I'm getting flown different places.
Yeah.
Right. Just to come and show up and provide this service to people. I'm getting perks that don't necessarily would have come with this particular job. No. Right. So anyway, I want to talk about what it's like to transition from part-time to full-time from my perspective. But before we do that, I want you to talk about, for people who are like, man, I haven't even gotten started with the business at all, even part-time.
Yeah.
How do you, what are some pros, some cons, some tips, help the people be you got to be successfully part-time before you can be full-time.
Yeah. I mean, so the biggest thing is you have to be intentional. And we talk about being intentional all the time, right? You got to just be intentional to say, okay, this is what I want to do. And once you figure out this is what you want to do, then you got to just start. I know you don't want to. That's the thing. I tell people it's progress over perfection, right? Where I know you don't want to fail. I know you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing, right? Because that's that ego, though. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to put ego to the side, and it's like, it got to look ugly. It got to look messy. You know what I'm saying? Because in you starting, there's certain things that you're going to develop. There's certain things you're going to learn about yourself that's going to assist you along the way. So those are some of the things that I encourage to do first. You just got to start. And then as you start and as you move, things start getting clearer. And it's like I said, it's going to be challenging because you're having to figure out, okay, I got this 9 to 5. And then depending on where you at in life too, right? So I'm not just have a full-time and then I'm doing, have a business part-time, but I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a community leader. You know what I'm saying? So I have all these other factors as well. So where now it's like, okay, how do I decide or how do I prioritize? You know what I'm saying? But even that, once again, I'm a little older, so there's a level of self-awareness that I have now, but I ain't gonna front, I didn't have it initially, right? And I had to learn how to communicate certain things. It was certain things that I was missing out on, you know what I'm saying, as far as, I'm very charismatic, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a likable person,
Yeah.
but I'm an introvert. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to, going to family functions, I'm like, I'm good, y'all can go. You know what I'm saying? Just because part of me don't want to go, but it's like, okay, I don't want to go, and I can be utilizing that time to, build a business. But just knowing that in doing though, I'm,
it's a give and take. I'm giving up family time so that's a good point that you got to bring up, because I am full-time. And that's another thing I want to bring up. Some people are doing things that they're passionate about, nonprofit, but there's also seasons in the life where one spouse is working and the other spouse is not working. And so I'm sustaining the household with this income, and I don't want to shift to a business endeavor that's volatile, right? And it's risky. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the business is not consistently hitting those $25,000, $50,000 months. And if it dips, as the owner, you're the one that have to take the dip, not the rest of the business, not the rent, the lights, and all that stuff got to get paid. You got to take it. And as that spouse, you don't want the whole family to be impacted. And so some people are staying, working a full-time job to keep the benefits for themselves and the entire family. So I like that you brought up that family piece, but also, so that leans into some of the cons of being a part-time entrepreneur, is because you only have less time, right? You have limited time to get things done. And so in order to get things done during that time, I have to forego or give up going to other things.
Right. So, and that can cause issues and problems, especially when other people are involved. That plays a factor. That plays a part. Like you said, and those are some of the cons, where it's like you have to be very intentional about your time, but it's helped me develop communication skills. It helped me develop to be able to articulate and communicate certain things so that we can avoid certain things. So where, we can mitigate, certain feelings and whatnot. And then, I didn't make it to this event. I didn't make it to that event. The next event, I gotta go. You know what I'm saying? So listen, it's been very good self-development. I'll say
this, because most people who work 9 to 5, they already got all the things done for the business in the 9 to 5. So now the rest of my time, we can go socialize. Yeah. But if I've worked my regular job, 9 to 5, or 9 to 6, depending on, and then when I got off, I still have this business, and it needs 3 to 4 to 5 hours of my time.
Exactly.
I don't have time, so there's that. It's the constraint, not necessarily that it involves on your business. The point is that it's a constraint on you personally.
Yeah.
And I would even say from the times when I was part-time, it's like when I had a full-time job and a part-time job, at some point it started feeling like I had 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Like, because it was like, dang, in order to kind of continue to grow the business, I'm spending more time on it than just 3 to 4 hours. I'm spending more time, okay?
Yeah.
And so I may not still be spending 40, but it feels that way.
Yeah.
And then I don't have time to not necessarily just social stuff with family, social stuff with friends I'm missing out on. But then there's personal things like, for example, just fitness, for example. Like most people, when they get off work, they can go ahead and go work out, or go exercise, or go for a jog, go for a run. But I have to now work on the business, because the business still needs to go, because it's sustaining 30% of my income, right? And out of $200,000 I make, you see, I went up from 100 to 200, because just in case y'all ballers,
Right.
But I'm $60,000 is coming from this business, right? And the other 140 is coming from and I have to continue to do this because I really see where it can go, and I can get it to 100,000 if I just give it some time. But when am I gonna? If I'm socializing with friends, socializing with family, when am I gonna have personal time to see about my health? And then that's where you start becoming into like this whole workaholic thing. Yeah,
that's it. No, that's and that's it. That's probably one of the biggest, the cons outside of as well, because you're limited. Especially, it's one thing if now I would encourage somebody, if you are in the part-time space, you're gonna need some support and assistance. Because if you're trying to do it from a solopreneur mode, right?
Yeah.
You're doing, once again, yourself a disservice, as well as your customers or clients or fans, however you label them, you're doing them a disservice. Because, you know, at one point in time, when I was doing everything myself, I wasn't able to service them the way that they needed to be serviced. I wasn't able to respond to the emails. I wasn't able to, you know, just do certain little things that enhance the experience, right? The experience with it. And oh, please, yes, you want to be able to, and that's another conversation. I'm sorry. But no, but yeah, I wasn't able to give them the experience that I knew that they deserved, and even that I wanted to give.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So in doing so, I had to bring on other people to help support me in that, so I can still provide that level of service.
Yeah, that's really good. So you have to, if you are full-time currently at a job and you're a part-time entrepreneur and you're making a sustainable amount of income from it, you're making $40,000 a year. That's some people's full-time. So that's not to be squatted on, that this business is a profitable business. You're making 40 profit. That's a good something to look at. And so, but the thing is, like, am I delivering the proper service? So the best thing you want to do is get you some assistance, if that's what you're talking about. So that's a tip that you done put in there in the midst of talking about a con. You know what I mean? So you got to get you an assistant, you know, and they're going to even be part-time. They're going to be part. They're going to be partial because you're only doing it part-time. So they're, or you could get you somebody who is full-time. It depends on how you want to lay this thing out. But yeah, so that's something interesting. One of the things that I would say is the limitation is not necessarily the time, because as we talked about, there are people who work 4-hour days. That's 5 days a week. That's only 20 hours. They only work 20 hours a week, and they sustain multiple six-figure business, multiple $1 million businesses, right? So we already know that. It's not about the time. But the reason why they're able to do that in those 20 hours or those 7 hours a week is because they don't have anything else that's competing for their mental attention. So I want to talk about that personally as well. That's something to consider as you continue to hold on to this full-time job, how much personal clarity and fatigue and mental fatigue you may be giving up in order to hold on to, you know, that thing, you know what I mean? So if it's not that, then it's not a problem. Because like I said, some people who are teachers or coaches, they love coaching, but then other than that, they run this company, a trucking company, and so forth and so on, and it's not causing that level of mental fatigue. But sometimes it does, because if I'm fresh and sharp for 20 hours a week, this is, you're getting the best, most mentally clear aspect of me 4 hours a day. Versus I've already worked 8 to 9 hours, and then I'm coming to give my business 4 hours. The tired.
You want to know the one thing that's holding most creative entrepreneurs back? It's not the talent. It's not even the vision. It's the lack of capital. Every day I watch brilliant creatives miss life-changing opportunities simply because they can't access business funding. Traditional banks, they really don't understand creative business like that. And most lenders, well, they don't care. But guess what? That ends today with the Minding My Creative Business partnership with Credit Savant. You can access up to $150,000 in business credit. You heard correct. Up to $150,000 in business credit. They have 0% interest options with 30+ funding programs designed for creatives just like you. So what I need you to do is visit creditsavant.io now. Tell them MMCB sent you. 9 to 5 you have, right? If you have a 9 to 5 that is leaning on your brain, right, then definitely you're gonna be drained, right? But if you got a job to where it's like, okay, I don't necessarily got to use this, I'm just going in and I'm just doing, right? I might be, you know, whatever, you're doing something, maybe labor, you're doing something with your hands. It's like, it don't take a lot of that. Not saying it doesn't take any of that, because you still got to think, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, if you, like leadership roles, management, things like that, you're using brain, you managing people, personalities, things like that. Yeah, that's going to be draining. But if you, certain jobs, because listen, before I started really doing my business and I had multiple jobs, I would look for jobs that I didn't have to use this in the job. I can just go up and just show, be a body, use my hands or whatever the case may be, because I still needed to be fresh at the job or at home.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
so I just wanted to add that caveat. But no, it's definitely draining, right? It's like you said. It's like if you're in a space and I'm giving my because once again we're creatives,
Yeah.
right? So if I'm giving my creative energy, right, to another entity, yes, you're going to be drained to a degree when it comes. So you got to learn how to even manage that.
Yeah. Yeah, that mental energy, the energy, basically. You talked about social, so that's friends and family. We talk about personal, having time for personal care and health and fitness and things like that. But then there is energy management, right? So I've given all my energy during this time to something else. And so now it's hard for me to give my energy here, or it's harder to give my energy here. Yeah. So it is a big difference in being part-time, because that's all I give is part-time effort to this company, and I make a lot of money because they're getting, it's the fresher version of your energy. It's the most mental clear you, but for 20 hours or for 7 hours or whatever. And so it does make a difference. Yeah, definitely. And that's where I was when I began to transition. I was like, feels like I'm working 2 full-time jobs. It's time for me to be able to reclaim my energy so that I can give the better part of my energy to the business, because I realized that I'm giving part-time effort to it, and it's actually making more money than my full-time job. And for me, it wasn't like a nonprofit. It wasn't something that I was like super duper passionate about that I was doing. So it wasn't as hard to walk away from. So it's not like, I'm actually more passionate about the business endeavor. Yeah. Right? I'm actually more passionate about it. I feel I'm actually making more impact. In fact, if you go and listen to some of the interviews, people will say, well, how did you know you wanted to launch out? And it's because, it wasn't because I was making more money. It was because I realized I was making more impact with this business than I was making. So in my company that I was working for, the company I was working for, I felt like I was given to the bottom line. I was contributing to the bottom line of a company. That's what I'm contributing. I'm helping their bottom line. Right? I'm helping their profit margin. But with my company, I feel like I was contributing to culture. You know, I felt like I was contributing into life-on-life impact of people, because they would come to me with their testimonials and be like, man, I was listening to this song from you, or I remember when you said this and it changed me, and I went and applied for that, and now I'm a radiologist because I went and, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, if I can continue to work here, I'm going to make less income-wise, and I'm going to make less of an impact. And that bothered me. And I was like, okay, it's time, because I need to like put more energy into this, because if I put more energy into it, I can make more impact and I can make more income. So no, that's real. That's real. No, that's good. And you know, this is all transparency for me. It is that tussle, because it's like I'm making impact in my director role, right? And I know I'm making impact you know, with my business, you know what I'm saying? Like this one of them, like this podcast, I know it's making impact. Me coaching other creatives and whatnot, that makes impact, right? So it's that. So you kind of make an impact in 2 worlds. Exactly. And I'm passionate about both, because you know, the nonprofit, you know, I'm serving youth and families. I love that, right? What I'm doing here, I'm affecting families, right? I'm helping to create that generational, we talk about generational wealth and generational legacy and all that stuff. I'm helping to do that by helping them to walk into their creative prowess and monetize it. Because like I said, don't get me started. So that it's that tussle, and some of y'all might have that too, where it's like you're torn between the two. So it's like, there's that. One of the things I want to ask you before I talk about full-time, because there are some people who are already part-time and they're like, I want to be full-time. Right. I know how to do part-time, but we know you have to be intentional with your time. Is there something else that you would like to give people as a tip to like, hey, I'm getting ready to start doing this part-time, that they need to do to be successful part-time? We move off feeling a lot. Vibe. And feelings and following the feeling and following the vibe is not going to create a sustainable business, right? So you have to develop systems, processes, habits that's going to be able to sustain when you don't feel like it. Right. Okay, gotcha. I understand what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Can't move off of when the feeling strikes. Right. If you're going to grow this business, you have to be consistent. I want to say it was Eminem, they say, that he goes in and he he writes as if it, I don't know if he still does this, but there was a point in time, he treated it like it's work. He goes in from like 40 hours and he's like, I write. This is what I do. This is what I do for work. I write. You know, this is what I do. I bake. This is what I do. I make, right? If you're a maker, right? You're custom making jewelry or whatever. In order, you can't be like, oh, I have the feelings haven't came. Well, if the feelings don't came, the sales are not going to come. Okay. So you saying develop this consistency that you would have if you was working a job. Because if you working a regular job that you are not the owner of, they're not waiting on your vibe. You do it every day. Consistently, right? And so you're saying take that same approach, develop the habit of like,
because your feelings gonna change. Like how many times have you thought about? Yeah, I'm good. I ain't doing this no more. Let me go fill out an application or send my resume somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like those feelings come up where you get tired of it, and it's like, okay, I can't be moved by that. But what systems and things do I have in place that, okay, when I'm feeling like that, and even when listen, there's times when it's like I check out. But I still have things in place that, though I've checked out, it's still running, right? And it's still going to provide and generate the revenue and things that I need. And then when I'm back in the feeling, okay, cool, I can hop back in.
Yeah. You know, as you was talking about that, I was thinking through my process of before I transitioned full-time. And I'm going to tell you my pros and cons and tips of being full-time. But I remember I was consistent. Like I would work 8 to 5. My latest hour work is like 5:30.
Well,
after that, you know, I'm in the car, I'm driving. As I'm driving, I would listen to music or I would think about my creative endeavors. I made that time be my kind of creative time. I'm not just going to be fussing at the people in traffic the whole time. No, I'm thinking about whatever I'm creating so that when I get to the house, I can write down what I came up with, right? And then when I got to the house, I had a certain amount of administrative time because there are certain things I had to do. I had to check on my emails, I had to respond back to people. I had to update like my website, certain things I had to do, and I would do that for an hour. And then I had then after that, then I would do, you know, so you're right. I actually did have a bit of a process. There was creative time, administrative time, and then there's other just full-on work time. If I had to go to a session or something like that, I would schedule that to happen after 7. Why? Because I still got to drive. I still need to go do my administrative stuff, and then I can go do. So it is true. You do want to develop that. So, okay, let's talk about being full-time entrepreneur, full-time. Okay, what we were saying is fully sustained income coming from your own business as opposed to you working at somebody else's business. That's what we were really talking about. So I say obviously we know the pros is that you get that energy back. You don't have to divide your time anymore as far as social things is concerned, as far as friends and family, because I've worked my time during the day and now I'm free like everybody else. To like where I used to be working 8 to 5 and then I was tied up to like 9 or 10 o'clock and then I don't have to do that. All what I was doing between 9 and 10 has been shifted up to the top of the day. I'm done, and now I can go be right.
Now,
but
let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Because you said I'm free like everybody else. But are you really free like everybody else?
Yeah.
Because in you being full time, right, or fully sustained by this, the average person is gonna think like, oh, Shy, she ain't doing nothing.
Yeah. Oh.
Right.
Come on. Yeah.
So,
the cons.
Right.
Here we go. That's one of the cons. Is because when people know that you don't work a job that has you restricted and tied to, well, I can't answer the phone at work. Oh, I can't be. I have to wait till I get off at 5. They already know you just available.
Right.
Oh, that's what they think.
That's what they think.
So then that's where this tip comes in. You have to have boundaries of your own time as a full-time entrepreneur and treating not just that consistent workflow, but letting other people know, yeah, I work for myself, but I do have to work. So when people call me, hey, what you doing in the middle of the day, that they wouldn't call you, they wouldn't call somebody who's full-time.
Right.
They calling me during, hey, you want to, I'll let them know, hey, I'm working. And they're like, oh, yeah, I work. I work. I just work for my own company. That's the difference. That's the only difference. So that's a good one.
Yeah.
When you're full time, people they start feeling like you just got all the free time in the world, which you do. You have a little bit more free time, but I still have to work. Otherwise, what kind of employee am I? I'm gonna have to let myself go. No, so that's one thing. The other thing is, I would say now I have to make sure I make time to manage the money and making sure that it's consistent, right? And making sure that it's not fluctuating and volatile, right? If it's part-time, if it's only sustaining, like you have this other thing that's your bread and butter, your consistent paycheck, you're okay with letting your business be volatile.
Right.
But once you become, because you're like, I made 20,000, I make about $60,000 a year off of it, give or take, maybe 40, maybe 60. You don't care.
Right.
I don't say you don't care, but it's not a big deal because your sustain is here.
Right.
Well, you start looking at the business different when you go full time. I can't afford to fluctuate like that. I have to have consistency because I'm drawing a salary from the business. And I need my salary to be right. So that's just a difference right there.
So you're saying you have to have some money goals where it's like, okay, this is two things. You have to have money goals overall, but those money goals have to sustain the business because you are not the business. The business is a separate entity. So I need money goals to sustain the business, and I need money goals to sustain me as an employee of the business.
Right. I need the business to be doing well, which is really what you should be doing at any company you're working with.
Right.
You need to be making sure the business is doing well so your consistent check can continue to flow.
Right.
But it's just different because now I own this business and I need these business goals. The reason why they have to happen is because my salary is coming out of it. My assistant salary is coming out of it. My publicist contract is coming out of it. My such and such's contract is coming out of it. So I now look at all these particular expenses that I have and I have to say, okay, my business consistently has to do that to even break even. So now I'm looking at the business a different way.
Yeah.
So then I would say being more intentional about the goals, but actually looking at the money in a different way. A lot of times when people working full time, you don't think about it. You know, it's just coming. 1st and 15th, it's just going to hit. You don't really look at it properly. So I would say that changes.
Yeah.
Another benefit, like I said, is just it's that mental clarity that when I wake up in the morning, I'm able to get to it. I'm able to get to my creative business and tend to that. Like I'm able to, with the best part of me. And I say in the morning for me, it's the best part of me in the morning. There's also a sweet spot that I can hit. If I work late, I can hit it.
Okay.
But I can hit it knowing that I don't have to get up and go to somebody's company and be sleepy at work all day. That's not fair.
Yeah.
But at least if I'm going to be sleepy, it's going to be at my company and I can kind of flex my schedule. That's the beautiful part for me, is that I think that in other countries, they have these siestas, right? Where you work a couple of hours, you take a long lunch, and then you come back and work. That's in several countries around the world. We wouldn't know that because this is being taped right here in these Americas.
Right.
This is America. This is America. Right? And so right here in America, we just work straight through.
Right.
But in other countries, they take a siesta or they take a pause in the middle of the day and they shut the company down.
Yeah.
And you will probably notice it if you go to a restaurant here, that in the restaurant is an authentic Italian or some kind of other cuisine. They shut their restaurant down in the middle of the day. You're like, why do they do that?
Right.
It's because that's what they're accustomed to doing. And what they do during that time, they go have full time to eat, spend time with family, and they get, have a meeting and all that kind of stuff. So they prioritize things different in other countries. We probably should adopt that. Yeah. And so I adopt that as a business owner. I work in the beginning of the day, and then in the middle, I take a lunch, I take a nap, I take phone calls. So the people who are calling me and all that kind of stuff, they can call me during this time, and then I get back to work a little bit later. So I have like a split shift. Okay. But that's the flexibility that I'm able to I can decide what my shift looks like.
Yeah. And that's good you say that because you're able to split it up based off of you. You know what I'm saying? So being aware of yourself, like, okay, bet early in the morning, I got it. You can get, whatever out of me, but I know this time I'm gonna taper off. So let me do my little napping and breaking here. And then I know I'm gonna give me another little spurt in the evening. So that self-awareness is peace. And that's, I think a lot of times we're not aware of ourselves. We don't know how we function. And then we're trying to fit into some other box or something like that. So being able to be full time, I'm seeing that you're able to know. I'm able to create my box. I don't got to fit nobody else's box.
Right. I'm able to create my box.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm able to decide if I want to change the boxes around.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's not working for me.
Yeah.
If I'm able to know, like, oh, well, for example, I went on a tour,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm on the road. That's a different schedule than this schedule over here. So I'm gonna switch things around this way, and I don't have to get anybody's permission. I don't have to go say, hey, can I have this amount of time off or this PTO? Can I flex this? And they got to see if they can do it. Like, I get to check it off. And I know that if I change my schedule, I know I need to make sure the business still does what it's supposed to do. So that's the big difference there. When you're going part-time to full-time, you're going to have to look at the numbers differently and make sure that the business doesn't ebb and flow, because it's going to impact more than just you. Okay, especially all the people who are on contract or who are on retainers with you. And then the other thing is learn yourself. While we talk about self-development, is get that wrap around when are you at your peak moments, so that you can give your business your peak moments. When do you need to break to go for the family, to pick up the kids or do whatever? And then how many hours do you need to come back and work at that time if you want to do a split shift? Or is it better for you to just get on up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, knock it all out, and you can be done by 2? Or do you just know anything? I'm gonna work from 7 to 2. It only takes 6 hours a day for me. Right? I don't need 8 hours. Some people say, hey, I'm challenging myself. I'm challenging myself because I believe I can get more out of me in less time. And I'm only going to work 4 hours a day. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do all my morning routine stuff, and I'm going to work from 10 to 2, and that's it. That's it. Because I'm going to make myself do this. I'm going to make myself have output. I think that's cool too. I want to get to that point, right? I definitely want to get to that point. I'm to the point where I don't work 60 hours or 50 hours. I work a little bit less than 40 hours, a week. So I can't really speak to, in this episode, neither one of us have experienced being a super duper high level entrepreneur to where I only work 7 hours a week. I'm not there yet. I still got to give a good 20, 30, 35, you know what I mean? I still got to give time to it. But ultimately, that's the goal. And I want to talk to those people who are full-time, who are trying to like scale back. If they're watching this whole episode and they're like, I've done that, I know about that, but y'all said you all were going to tell me how to scale back. And that's talking about being more efficient. And I want to tell them about a book that I actually am reading right now, so that I can begin to scale even further back. And it's not me scaling back because I desire to be part-time. I just don't want to work. It's not about that. It's about efficiency. It's about me wanting to give my time to other endeavors. I may want to circle back around and go be with this nonprofit and give back. But I don't want to have to be sustained income from the nonprofit. I want my income to be fully sustained, and now I can go just give of my time, right? I may want to go spend more time as my parents or my elders and my loved ones are getting older, with them in that social setting. I may want to go spend time with friends and masterminds to grow my mind to a different level. I may want to spend that time not just working away, doing, right? And so the reason for that reason, I am reading a book called Get Scalable. Right? I'm reading it again. I've read, how you read a book and you're like, okay, it was too much. They dropped it. Ooh, I got to run that back. Right? And so I'm reading it for the sake of applying it. Right? So that I can have the purpose of the book basically is that how to get your company to be scalable. Meaning that the company has a proper operating system that is such that if you're ready to scale from 1 to 2 million, it's already situated to where it can accommodate that level of growth. When you say we have a new goal of going from 2 to 5, it can accommodate it because you have the proper operating system, efficiencies, you're tracking the right metrics, you know where your North Star is. I highly recommend this book. We're going to actually link it in the description below. But ultimately, it's about getting the company positioned to be able to just scale and scale and scale, or being able to sell.
Yeah.
So getting scalable is the same thing as getting sellable, because the ultimate goal for some people is not to have this same business in my company forever and ever and ever and ever,
Right.
in my family forever and ever. Sometimes they want to get the business so they can sell it.
Exactly.
The business should become an asset. It is a well-oiled machine full of resources that I can take this business and it's worth $5 million a year profit. And that's after paying employees and taxes and everything else. But I no longer want to run it, because I realize that running it just takes 30 hours out of my time. I need to sell this to somebody else who says, oh, I can run that in 20 hours a week or 10 hours a week. Then it would be perfect to sell to Ron, because he can do that more efficiently than I can. Because I want to go do something else, right? Or I know that this business is capped off at $5 million, and my creativity has tapped me into, I have a $10 million idea. This is a great business, but it can never be a $10 million a year business. It's just going to always be $5 million, even at its best efficiency. So I'm going to sell this to somebody who wants to have a $5 million business in their portfolio of businesses. And I'm going to go create this $10 billion a year valuation. I mean, $10 million a year company.
No, you had it right with 10 billion.
Billion,
yeah,
right.
10 billion.
So you may have a $10 billion idea, but I can't, because I'm running this $5 million company. So I can sell that. So it's just saying the goal is sometimes just to scale and then to sell. And so you read about getting scalable as a business owner, so that you can get your business efficient enough to be able to pull you out of it enough so that it can scale with ease, or be able to be sold with ease. You got another book that you would give to people who are looking to pare themselves out of the business a little bit?
No, definitely. So I had one initially, then I thought about another one as we was going through the episode. Like, oh no, one perfect for y'all is the E-Myth. The E-Myth revisited by Michael Gerber. And that pretty much taught this the same concept, where we're going to have to remove you from working in the business so that you can now work on the business. Because as you're working in the business, you don't see it. You don't see it from a bird's eye view. You don't see big picture. You're seeing it very from one-sided. You know what I'm saying? You're seeing it almost from an employee point of view, because you actually are an employee in your business. So putting systems in place, putting processes in place, or automating or delegating, right? Finding people that you can delegate to, finding systems that you can automate, right? To where it can do certain things for you. So then, okay, let me step out of it. Let me work on it. But as I'm working on it, it shouldn't require that 40, 50, 60 hours, right? Once again, you could get down to maybe a 4-hour work week, 7-hour work week, or whatever, because now I'm ideating, I'm figuring out ways to make it more efficient and things like that, which will probably be good coupled with the Get Scalable book.
Yeah, E-Myth and Get Scalable. So it sounds like it's moving people from an operator to an owner. Because there's a difference. Like, I'm owner operator.
Right.
I mean, I own the business, and I'm currently operating the business. That's what I was just talking about. He's like, hey, I'm the part-timer. Like, I'm an operator.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't just own it. There are certain people who just own companies, and they only spend 7 hours a week on it because there's somebody else operating it, and they have check-in meetings. They have an hourly check-in meeting every Monday that kind of goes over everything, what's going on with the company. And you see what they say, and you take the feedback from the people who are operating it, and you now think of how we can drive it forward. You go have meetings with other people who can do partnership deals with your company that'll bring in. You go find out other companies you can acquire that can solve the sweet spot right there. So, okay, sounds like we have a need right here in this company that maybe we should go acquire an accountant company. And now we have this accounting arm within our business. So there's that type of stuff that actually happens when you're at that level. You can think about those things. You really can.
Yeah, no, definitely.
You really can go get that meeting and talk to this person and broker this, or we can go acquire that. But you can't do that when you're constantly operating it. Not saying that operating is not cool in and of itself and it's not sweet, but it pulls you into a different place.
Going back to that timepiece, right? Where it's like, it's taking of your time.
Yeah.
Right. So now, because it's taking of your time, you don't have much else to do. But knowing that, once again, if you are the owner, right, it's like, okay, I have more value to give than my time.
I have more value to give than my time. That I have more value to give other than my time. Yes, my time is valuable, but there are some other things that I can be given. So when we said This episode is going to be called full-time versus part-time. What I really was hoping that creative entrepreneurs understood is that you have more value to give other than your time. Ultimately. Listen, that's the episode.
That's the episode. Right. So, listen, on that note then, listen, we want to, first of all, I'm hoping that y'all picked up on that, right? If y'all got to rewatch it again, rewatch it, right? But yeah, no, this is phenomenal. But we thank you guys for, tuning in with us, right? Wherever you listening to it or watching this, we thank you. We always want to encourage you to become a part of the Creatives Corner community.
Yep.
Follow us or go to mmcbpodcast.com. That's mmcbpodcast.com and join the Creators Corner. It is a newsletter and it's a Facebook community where you can be in a community with other creative entrepreneurs like yourself, and use it to network and to learn and develop and grow and things like that. So do that like today.
mmcbpodcast.com. Again, that's the Creatives Corner community. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for learning, so much for growing for us. If this encouraged you any kind of way, drop us some comments. And if you have questions about this or want us to take this conversation and expand on it even further, or maybe even bring somebody in who has done this transition, let us know. Drop their name and we will actually take your feedback and implement it into the show.
Definitely.
Now, one of the things that I like to do, y'all already know. You see how I just rhyme right there? I wasn't trying to. It's just natural.
Right.
One of the things that I like to do in every single episode is make sure that you, as the listener, have an opportunity to participate as well. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. I want you to repeat after me. I want you to say this mantra, the MMCB podcast mantra. All it takes is intention, consistency, and laser focus, to mind my creative business.
Thank y'all.
Peace.